So Michael Jackson did the unthinkable. He looked Berry Gordy in the eye and walked away from Motown. What you're about to hear is the real reason why. 10 of them, actually. And number 1 is the one Berry Gordy still won't talk about. Number 10, the 2.7% betrayal. We have to start here because everything else in this story, every fight, every lawsuit, every late-night meeting in Encino, it all traces back to one number, 2.7. That was the percentage Michael Jackson and his brothers were earning per record sold at Motown, 2.7%, split 5 ways, after expenses, after advances. After Motown's accounting department got its hands on it. Let that sink in for a second. The Jackson 5 had stacked 4 consecutive #1 hits. Straight out the gate, something the Beatles couldn't even do. They sold out arenas. They had their own Saturday morning cartoon. They were the face of Motown on 3 continents, and for every single record flying off the shelves, they were taking home less than 3 cents on the dollar. Now here's where it gets dark. Michael didn't even know. For years he didn't know. He was a teenager. He trusted his father. He trusted Berry. He thought the checks coming in were the checks coming in. Until somebody, and to this day nobody agrees on exactly who slid a contract across the table in front of Joe Jackson, and Joe finally read the fine print. 2.7%. While Motown's publishing arm owned the songs, while Motown's production team owned the masters, while Motown's lawyers owned the name Jackson 5 itself. Michael was the franchise, and he didn't own a single brick of the building he'd built. Now compare that to what was sitting on the other side of the table. Epic Records CBS had quietly opened a back channel. Their offer? 20% royalties, per record. Almost 8 times what Motown was paying. 8 times. And that wasn't even the part that made Michael's hands shake when he saw it. The part that made him shake is reason number 9. And trust me, once you hear it, you'll understand why he couldn't say no. Number 9, the songs he wasn't allowed to write by 1973. Michael Jackson was writing music in his head, constantly. Melodies in the car, bass lines in the shower, hooks he'd hum into a tape recorder he kept by his bed. The kid was a factory, and every single song he wrote went straight into a drawer. Because at Motown, you didn't write your own material. Period. That was the rule. Berry Gordy had built his empire on a simple, brutal piece of mathematics. If the label owned the publishing, the label kept the money. So Motown writers wrote Motown songs performed by Motown artists on Motown contracts, owned by Motown forever. Stevie Wonder had to threaten to walk away from a fortune just to get the right to write his own material. Marvin Gaye fought the same war for What's Going On and almost got dropped from the label for it. So when Michael, barely 16 years old, walked into Berry's office and said, "I want to write," Berry smiled, patted him on the shoulder, and told him to focus on singing. Stick to what he was good at. Let the grown-ups handle the rest. Michael never forgot that conversation. Friends say he brought it up for the rest of his life. Because in that moment, he realized something terrifying. Motown didn't see an artist when they looked at him. They saw a voice, a product. A machine that turned songs into money, and the songs weren't his to begin with. So he started keeping a notebook, a black leather notebook he carried everywhere. And every song he wrote in it, every hook, every chorus, every bridge, he marked the date next to it. Because he knew, he already knew, one day he was going to leave. And when he did, every page in that notebook was going to be worth a fortune. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. It made him more money in its first year than he'd earned in 6 years at Motown combined. But the song that almost didn't get written, that's reason number 8.
If you enjoyed this video, we invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update, and the real stories behind the music that built the world we live in. Don't miss the next one. We will see you there. Back to the countdown.
Number 7, the brother Berry Gordy took from him his name was Jermaine. And in 1973, he married Berry Gordy's daughter. You need to understand what that wedding meant. It wasn't just a marriage, it was a chess move. Jermaine Jackson, the second oldest brother, the original lead singer before Michael's voice took over, the one who'd been singing harmony on every Jackson 5 record since they were kids. Jermaine walked down the aisle and married Hazel Gordy, Berry's daughter. And in that single ceremony, Berry Gordy bought himself a permanent piece of the Jackson family. Because now, if the Jacksons ever tried to leave Motown, Berry didn't just have a contract holding them. He had blood. He had a son-in-law. He had a grandchild on the way. And he was about to use every ounce of that leverage. When the brothers finally sat Jermaine down in 1975 and told him, "We're going to Epic, we're leaving Motown, we need you with us," Jermaine froze. He couldn't speak. He went home that night and cried in front of his wife, because he wasn't just choosing between 2 record labels, he was choosing between his brothers and his father-in-law. Between the family that raised him and the family he'd just married into, he chose Motown, he stayed. And Michael lost his brother that day. Not all at once, not in a single fight, but slowly, painfully over years. Jermaine didn't perform with them on the Epic albums. Jermaine didn't tour with them. Jermaine became, in the eyes of the press, the brother who picked the money over the music, the brother who picked Berry over Michael. They reconciled eventually. They always do in families. But friends say Michael never quite trusted Jermaine the same way again, because every time he looked at his brother, he saw Berry Gordy's fingerprints. And every time he heard a Jermaine Jackson solo single coming out of Motown, he remembered exactly what loyalty cost. But losing his brother wasn't even the cruelest thing Motown did to Michael. Reason number 6 is the one that made him physically sick. Number 6, they owned his name. When Michael Jackson walked out of Berry Gordy's office for the last time, he thought he was free. He wasn't. Because here's the dirty little secret about the Motown contract. The label didn't just own the songs, it didn't just own the masters, it didn't just own the publishing, it owned the name, the Jackson 5. Those 3 words, that brand, that logo, that identity belonged to Motown Records. Forever, Michael found out the way most artists find out these things, in a courtroom. The minute the brothers announced they were leaving for Epic, Motown's lawyers filed suit, breach of contract, and inside that lawsuit, buried on page after page of legal language, was the bomb. Can't control my feet, sunshine. Don't blame it. You can leave, the lawyers said, but you can't take the name with you. Think about what that meant. 6 years of hits, 6 years of merchandise. 6 years of magazine covers and lunchboxes and t-shirts and posters on every teenage girl's bedroom wall in America. And they couldn't use any of it. They couldn't call themselves the Jackson 5 on tour. They couldn't print it on an album. They couldn't even say it in a TV interview without their lawyers panicking. So they had to start over. They had to rebrand. They had to walk into Epic Records, the biggest deal in music, with 20% royalties and a blank canvas, and a name nobody had ever heard of, the Jacksons. Just the Jacksons. No number, no identity. 6 years of equity gone in a single judge's ruling. And Michael had to sit there and watch his entire childhood get repossessed.
And that's no lie. We spent the night in
Every album he'd ever made, every song he'd ever sung, every magazine he'd ever appeared on, all of it stayed behind in a vault in Detroit. With Berry's name on the door, it nearly broke him. It almost made him quit music entirely.
That dirty rhythm fools me. The devil's got them to me.
There were nights, and Michael talked about these nights years later, where he wondered if leaving had been worth it at all. But then he found out about reason number 5, and once he found out, there was no going back.
If you enjoyed this video, we invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update, and the real stories behind the music that built the world we live in. Don't miss the next one. We will see you there. Back to the countdown.
A fire burns inside me. Boogie's got me.
Number 5, the royalty checks that never came years after Michael left Motown.
If you cared enough for the living, make a little.
He started to do something most artists never bother doing. He started checking his old royalty statements, carefully, line by line, with lawyers and accountants and forensic auditors.
Make a better place for you.
And what he found ended up in a Los Angeles courtroom. Michael Jackson sued Motown Records, personally, by name.
For me. And the dream.
He claimed that under a 1980 settlement agreement, an agreement that was supposed to pay him royalties on his pre-1976 recordings, Motown had not paid him a single dollar. Not one, for years.
Our human race. There are people dying.
Read that again. The label that built him, that profited from him into the billions, that still releases Jackson 5 Greatest Hits compilations to this day.
There are people dying.
According to Michael's own lawsuit, never sent him a check.
Better place for you and for me.
Not one. After he signed away his rights to a chunk of his own catalog in exchange for those royalties, he gave them everything. They gave him nothing back. And the worst part?
Place for you and for me.
This wasn't unique to Michael. Almost every Motown artist of that era tells some version of the same story. Marvin Gaye fought the label for years over royalties. The Temptations sued. The Four Tops sued. Mary Wells died nearly broke after one of the biggest careers in Motown history. The pattern was so consistent, so repeated, so quietly devastating, that by the late 1990s, music journalists were openly writing about it.
Make it a better place.
The Motown machine made stars, and the Motown machine kept their money. Michael fought back the only way he could. In court, with paperwork, with audits, with an army of attorneys.
Create a world with no fear.
And he won, partially. Enough to make a point. Enough to send a message to every label in the business that the boy from Gary, Indiana wasn't a boy anymore.
Together we'll cry happy tears. See the name.
But the lawsuits weren't really about the money. Michael had Thriller money by then. Bad money. Dangerous money. He didn't need a Motown check. He needed something else.
If you care enough for the living.
Something Berry Gordy still hadn't given him after all those years. And what he needed, what he was really fighting for, is reason number 4.
For you and for me.
Number 4, respect. 12/22/1422. Here's something Michael Jackson said in private to a friend that didn't come out until after his death.
Somebody's broken heart. Ever watched?
He said, "I was never a child to Berry Gordy. I was a checkbook with a microphone. That's the line, that's the wound. That's the thing that drove every single decision Michael made for the rest of his career."
Pretending not to see their need.
Because at Motown, Michael wasn't an artist. He wasn't a kid. He wasn't a brother or a son or a person. He was an asset, a product, a unit of output.
Son's disregard, a broken bottle tie.
And Berry, for all his genius, for all his vision, for all the doors he kicked down for black music in America, Berry ran Motown like a factory. And factories don't love their workers.
Then you close your mind.
Factories don't ask them how they feel. Factories don't let them write their own songs. Michael wanted to be taken seriously, as a man, as a creator, as somebody whose ideas mattered. And every time he walked into a Motown meeting, he could feel the room shifting around him, could feel the executives talking past him, planning around him, making decisions about his life and his music without ever once asking what he thought. He wasn't bitter about it. That's the thing people get wrong about Michael. He wasn't bitter. He was heartbroken. There's a difference. Bitter wants revenge. Heartbroken just wants to leave.
Go, that's the one I want you to know.
So he left. And he spent the rest of his life, every album, every video, every business move, every interview building something Motown never gave him. A seat at the table.
Starting with the man in the mirror.
He bought the Beatles' catalogue. He bought the publishing rights to thousands of songs. He sat across from Sony executives in suits and negotiated like a CEO because he knew.
Asking him to change his ways.
He'd learned the hardest lesson in the music business. Respect doesn't get given, respect gets bought. And the price tag is everything you've got.
Asking him to change his ways.
But there was one more thing pushing him out the door. One thing that had nothing to do with money, or songs, or contracts, or even Berry himself. Reason number 3 is the one nobody saw coming. Number 3, the sound was dying. By 1974, the Motown sound was in trouble. Real trouble. The kind of trouble nobody at the label wanted to admit out loud.
I wanna rock with you all night.
For 15 years, Berry Gordy had built an empire on a single perfect formula. Crisp drums, tambourine on the 2 and the 4, strings up high, bass up front, a hook in the first 8 bars.
Fight it, there ain't nothing that you.
That was the sound, that was the machine, that was Motown. And from 1959 to about 1972, it was the most successful sound in the history of American popular music. But music was changing. Disco was crawling out of the underground clubs of Philadelphia and New York. Funk was getting nastier, dirtier, more dangerous. Sly Stone, Parliament, Earth, Wind and Fire, all of them taking Motown's polish and breaking it on purpose. And rock was eating into black radio in a way nobody had seen before. The audience was moving, the sound wasn't. Michael saw it before anyone else in his family did. He was 19, 20 years old, and he was sitting in front of his stereo studying records. Not Motown records, other records. The new stuff. The dangerous stuff. He was listening to the Bee Gees, to Stevie's solo work, to the early disco records bubbling up out of nowhere.
Just take it slow.
And he was hearing the future. And the future didn't sound like Motown. He tried to tell Berry. He tried to push for new producers, new arrangements, a new direction.
Got so far to go.
He wanted to make a record that sounded like nothing the label had ever released. And every time the answer came back the same. Trust the formula. Stick with the corporation. Don't fix what isn't broken. But it was breaking. Michael could hear it breaking. And he knew in his bones that if he stayed at Motown another 5 years, his career would die there. Not in a fire, not in a scandal, in a slow, polite, well-orchestrated fade. He wasn't going to let that happen. He'd rather burn the whole thing down and start over, which is almost exactly what he did. But the breaking point, the actual moment Michael decided he was leaving, wasn't a song. It wasn't a contract. It wasn't even a fight. Reason number 2 is the moment his mind was made up forever. Number 2, the meeting that broke him, nobody knows the exact date. Some say late 1974, some say early 75, but everyone who was there agrees on what happened in the room. Michael walked into Berry Gordy's office. Just Michael, no brothers, no father, no managers. Just him and Berry sitting across a desk, the way they'd sat across that desk 100 times before. And Michael quiet, polite, the way he always was laid out his case. He wanted creative control, he wanted to write, he wanted to produce, he wanted to pick his own collaborators. He wasn't asking to leave, he was asking to grow. Berry listened, he nodded, he smiled. And then, according to people who heard the story afterward, Berry said something that Michael never repeated in public, but apparently never stopped repeating in private. Berry told him that wasn't how Motown worked, that Michael's job was to sing, that the artists who tried to do more the Marvins, the Stevies, the ones who pushed those were the difficult ones.
Being the one who would dance on
The expensive ones, the ones who caused problems, and Michael, Berry said, was too smart for that. It was meant as a compliment. Michael heard it as a cage.
the floor around.
He walked out of that office and didn't say a word to anyone for hours. He drove home, he sat in his room, he played records, he didn't sleep, and by morning the decision had been made, not in anger, not in panic, in something colder than that, in the kind of quiet, settled certainty that doesn't go away. He was leaving. And nobody, not Berry, not Joe, not Jermaine, not the lawyers, not the contracts, nobody was going to stop him. The press conference came months later. The lawsuits came after that.
Who would dance on the floor around.
But the actual decision, the actual break, it happened in silence in a single afternoon in a teenager's bedroom in Encino, California.
Who you love, and be careful what you do. After the lie becomes the truth.
The biggest move in the history of popular music started with one kid, sitting on the edge of his bed, deciding he was done. But there was still one more reason.
Not my lover. Ooh, she's just a girl.
The reason that put steel in his spine on the days he wavered. The reason that, more than any contract or song or paycheck, made the risk worth taking. Reason number one. Number one, he knew who he was. This is the one Berry Gordy still doesn't talk about. Not in interviews. Not in his memoir, not in the documentaries, and it's the most important reason of all. Michael Jackson knew. He knew what he was. He knew somewhere deep in the marrow of his bones that he was going to be the biggest artist in the history of recorded music. Not hoped, not wished, knew. Friends from that era, people who were around him in 1974, 1975, the year of the decision, all described the same eerie thing. The kid talked about it like it had already happened, like he was just waiting for the calendar to catch up, and he understood something that Berry Gordy, for all his brilliance, had stopped believing. He understood that the artist is bigger than the label. Always, eventually, that a great song outlives the company that pressed it, that a great voice outlives the contract that owned it, that a great career, a really great one, the kind that gets carved into the side of history, that kind of career cannot be contained by any building, any boss, any deal. Berry thought he was bigger than Motown. Michael knew he was bigger than Motown. And the moment a young artist realizes it in their gut, not in their head, there is no contract on earth that can hold them. So he left. He left the label that built him. He left the brother who married into the family that owned him. He left the name his entire childhood had been printed under. He left the royalty checks he was never going to see anyway. He left the producers and the writers and the suits and the lawyers and the lawsuits. He left all of it. And he walked into a room with Quincy Jones and a blank tape and a black notebook full of songs nobody had ever heard. 3 years later, that notebook became Off the Wall. 6 years later, it became Thriller. And the rest, the moonwalk, the Pepsi commercials, the Super Bowl, the Neverland Ranch, the White Glove, the sequined socks, the entire global phenomenon that we still call the King of Pop, all of it, every single piece of it, traces back to one decision made by one teenager who looked Berry Gordy in the face and bet his entire life that he was right. And he was.
If you enjoyed this video, we invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And the real stories behind the music that built the world we live in. Don't miss the next one. We will see you there.